going on, YouTube Nation? Pure Meds here, bringing you something a little bit different. Now, what you're probably seeing on the screen at this point, and that's kind of weird how I want to edit this video. The first photo is a Remington 22 Model 582 bolt-action rifle. These things were made in the 1960s, late 1960s. Actually, they were really modeled in 1967. They were done with in 1982, I believe. They are 22 shots. I'll show a picture at the end of the video of the different rounds of all the guns that I'm going to be showing in this video. But the Remington rifle that my grandfather owns, this is a beautiful bolt-action rifle. We have owned this gun for years. I think over 15 or 20 years at this point. I fired it 3 or 4 times beforehand. And just recently, my grandfather has come across ultrasonic rounds. Ultrasonic rounds for the 22 rifles sound like a little firecracker going off. You barely hear it. These things are so quiet that you can fire it next to... you could probably fire it in your yard and people just think you're firing off fireworks. No, it's no joke. They are very quiet. They barely make any sound. So, the next photo I'm showing right now, there are 3 guns, there's 3 pistols. The very top pistol, I can't think of, I think they're all Glock, they're 2 Glocks, the top and bottom, or the top and middle one. I believe they're both Glock 9s. The top one is very rare. The reason why is because the proof mark stamping on it is Australian, or not Australian, as an Austria proof mark. And it's not supposed to be sold in the US, but luckily the guy that my grandfather got a hold of got his hands on it from whoever, and my grandfather got it from him. This gun is worth a pretty penny, because I mean, you might have this gun, but they're very rare to come by in America. I mean, it's not illegal to own, it's just illegal to buy from the country. I mean, if you get your hands on it, then you're just lucky to get you're just lucky to get that gun. My grandfather has had a pretty penny offer to him to get this gun, but of course we're not selling it because they're very rare. And actually, besides the factory shooting the weapon for test firing, that's the only time this pistol has ever been fired. It has not been fired by civilian use at all. The second gun in the middle is also a Glock 9, but it's got the Glock stamping on it, meaning that it's an American stamp. Beforehand, the gun was never fired. It was only fired by factory until me and my grandfather took it onto the field. He fired the first 2 rounds, and I fired the last 8 or 9 rounds or whatever. We only put like 11, 12 rounds in the clip, and that was pretty much it. And that was the first time it's ever been fired. Besides that, it has not been fired since then, and that was over 2 years ago at this point. I think it could be longer than that. It's been a while since that gun's been touched as of in firing. And the bottom gun of the, you're probably wondering what it is. Yeah, it is a revolver style gun. Some of you might know what it is. It is the Judge Public Defender. If you do not know what this weapon is, I'll give you a little history on it. A tad bit of history. I really don't know too much about them. If you know what it is, you already know what's coming. This gun fires 2 types of rounds. It fires a 410 short style shotgun round and a 44 long Colt round. My grandfather got about 25 rounds of the 44s and 45s, I believe, not 44s. 45 long Colt, and they're armor piercing. They're not just standard ammunition. They are armor piercing. Along with the Glocks are 9 mils. They're hollow points, as well as with the armor piercing 45s. And of course, you don't have your standard 410 round. They're shorter. They're shorter due to the fact that if you open the round, if you open the chamber for the revolver, and you try to close it with a standard 410 rounds, it's going to be about an inch and a half too long to fit back into it. So they make a 410 handgun size shells to fit better into the gun. And we have not fired this weapon. Besides, again, since only the factory has fired it, that's it. Nothing else. So luckily, or hopefully I should say, when we fire this gun, nothing's going to happen. But and now you'll see here, we have 4 types of rounds. From left to right, you have the 410 shotgun round, you have the 45 Colt round, and you have the 9 mil hollow point, and then you have the 22 ultrasonic round. So hopefully in the next day or two, we're going to be able to fire all of these weapons, hopefully. I have a relative of the family of that has a pretty decent sized land that we should be able to fire these at. I wanted to bring something completely different to the channel. I'm gonna feel kind of awkward having my grandfather or my cousin or whoever is gonna be filming me doing this. It's really awkward. I don't like having my face being shown, but I think it's finally it's finally time to step in front of the camera and do something different. I know Kama has done some weapon firing on one of his previous videos on his personal channel. I thought, why not? We have a couple of guns at the house. Why not take them out there? It's not as cool as the AR-15s or ACRs that FPS Russia shoots or anything like that, but I thought, why not? Um, so hopefully you guys like this. Hopefully you will enjoy the video when I do bring it up, and hopefully you guys will be anxious to wait for me to fire some of these weapons. I will say I am kind of nervous of firing the Public Defender because my pinky I got a pretty good sized hand, so my pinky kind of hangs off the bottom of the grip. That's the only downside about those weapons, about that pistol, is because it doesn't have that big of a grip to it. So besides that, I'm pretty excited to fire the rest of the weapons. I fired a Remington with the ultrasonic rounds. It's really, there's no recoil. I mean, it's kind of like just a little bit of a jolt. That's barely it. I think he fired the AR-15 22s, and I think he said the same thing. It barely makes any sound, and it barely budges. I mean, it's pretty cool. But like, I fired one of the Glocks, and the Glock's got a okay amount of recoil, and it's pretty cool. So anyways, hope you guys are anxious to wait for the video, and peace.